Every year, a significant number of first-time cruisers book a cabin at the front of the ship because the bow feels exciting, the prow cutting through the water, the unobstructed ocean views. And every year, a significant number of those same passengers spend the first night of their cruise feeling completely miserable, wondering why nobody warned them. Someone should have warned them. Because the cabin location you choose before you board is one of the most consequential decisions you'll make for how your body handles a week at sea, and it's a decision most people make without understanding the physics behind it. This video covers what's actually happening inside your body when you get seasick, which position on the ship reduces that effect most significantly, and which remedies have clinical evidence behind them, versus which ones are comfort hacks that get passed around cruise forums as if they're cures. Motion sickness isn't a weakness, and it isn't psychological. It's a sensory conflict that the human brain hasn't fully evolved to resolve. Here's what's happening. Your inner ear, specifically the vestibular system, detects acceleration and movement. Your eyes provide visual information about your environment. Your muscles and joints send proprioceptive signals about body position. In normal land-based life, all three systems agree. On a moving ship, they stop agreeing. Your inner ear feels the ship rolling and pitching, but if you're below deck in a cabin reading, your eyes see a stationary room. Your proprioceptive system feels a floor that's staying level. The brain receives three different stories simultaneously and responds to that conflict with a cascade of physiological responses: nausea, sweating, dizziness, pallor, that are essentially the body attempting to protect itself from what it interprets as a sensory malfunction. The frequency of motion that triggers this most reliably has been identified in research. According to a study published in Aviation, Space, and Environmental Medicine and cited in a 2025 Nature paper on motion sickness susceptibility, the frequency range most likely to induce motion sickness is around 0.2 Hz, the low, slow rolling motion characteristic of ocean swells. Ships in open water move at exactly this frequency. That's not coincidence. It's why a rough crossing affects passengers differently than, say, a speedboat bouncing over choppy harbor water at a much higher frequency. As for who's susceptible, according to clinical trial data from Loma Linda University, approximately 28% of the general population has chronic motion sensitivity. But that doesn't mean the other 72% are immune. Almost anyone will develop symptoms under intense enough motion. The 28% figure refers to people who are reliably affected even in moderate conditions. Women are slightly more susceptible than men at 27.3% versus the general population mean, a difference documented consistently across multiple studies. If you're in the 28%, or if you simply don't know yet how your body responds to ocean motion, the single most impactful thing you can do happens at the booking stage, not at the pharmacy. The bow of a ship, the front, the part that points into the waves, experiences the most pronounced pitching motion. As the ship moves through swells, the bow rises and falls with each wave, while the center of the vessel experiences a fraction of that movement. The stern, the back, also moves more than the center, and high decks amplify the effect of any lateral rolling because you're further from the ship's center of gravity. The location that consistently produces the least motion is the center of the ship on a lower deck. This is basic physics. The center of gravity of the vessel is located there, and movement attenuates as you approach that point. A midship cabin on deck 4 or 5 will always be more stable than a forward cabin on deck 12, regardless of weather conditions. This isn't a soft tip. Midship lower deck positioning is the standard recommendation from maritime medicine sources, verified across cruise passenger reports and corroborated by the structural mechanics of how large vessels respond to ocean swells. If you're prone to seasickness and you have the option to choose your cabin location, which you do on most cruise lines during the booking process, this choice is worth more than any medication or remedy you'll find in a pharmacy. The medication hierarchy, ordered by clinical evidence. Once you've chosen the right cabin location, the next layer of protection is pharmacological, and the options are not equal. Here's what the clinical evidence actually shows, in order of effectiveness. Scopolamine, transderm shop, prescription only. The scopolamine patch is the most clinically validated option available. A Cochrane review of 14 randomized controlled trials involving 1,025 patients confirmed that scopolamine provided significantly greater reduction in nausea compared to placebo. According to GoodRx's 2026 clinical summary, the patch delivers continuous medication for up to 72 hours, making it particularly well suited for multi-day sailings. It must be applied 4 to 8 hours before boarding, not the morning of departure, to allow the drug to reach effective concentration. Important 2026 update. The FDA added a new warning for transderm scope regarding the risk of heat-related complications. In warm climates, Caribbean sailing for instance, passengers using the patch should be aware of this risk and discuss it with their prescribing physician before travel. Side effects include dry mouth, affecting approximately 67% of users according to clinical data, blurred vision, and mild sedation. The patch requires a prescription, which means it needs to be arranged before your cruise, not the night before departure. Dimenhydrinate is the active ingredient in original Dramamine. Multiple studies suggest it's as effective as scopolamine for most passengers, though with a notable trade-off. It needs to be taken every 4 to 6 hours, and it causes significant drowsiness in many users. For a 7-night cruise, the dosing requirement and sedation profile can significantly affect how much of the experience you're actually able to enjoy while being protected. Take it 30 to 60 minutes before expected motion exposure. Meclizine is the practical middle ground. It's taken once daily, causes substantially less drowsiness than dimenhydrinate, and covers 12 to 24 hours per dose. Studies consistently show it's somewhat less effective than scopolamine, but for moderate sea conditions on a mainstream cruise itinerary, Caribbean, Mediterranean, Alaska, its effectiveness is sufficient for the majority of susceptible passengers. The standard adult dose is 25 to 50 milligrams once daily. Do not give to children under 12 without medical guidance. Meclizine is the option most consistently recommended by travel medicine clinicians for cruise passengers who want OTC protection without the sedation of original Dramamine. The options below have varying levels of evidence. None of them replaces medication for passengers who are genuinely susceptible to significant motion sickness. They work best as supplementary layers rather than standalone solutions. These work by applying continuous pressure to the P6, make 1, acupoint, on the inner wrist, approximately 3 finger widths from the wrist crease. The mechanism is neurological. Sustained pressure on that point appears to modulate nausea signaling for some individuals. A 2004 clinical study published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine found them effective at reducing motion sickness symptoms in a subset of participants, but inconsistent across the group. At under $10 for a pair, and with no side effects, they're a rational addition to any anti-seasickness plan without any meaningful downside. Key is wearing them correctly. The plastic disc must be precisely positioned on the P6 point, not simply somewhere on the wrist. Clinical evidence for ginger in preventing motion sickness is moderate at best. A 2020 clinical evaluation published in Current Therapeutic Research found ginger extract had some benefit in preventive management of motion sickness, with the strongest effect in mild to moderate cases. For severe motion, the evidence doesn't support ginger as a primary treatment. As a supplementary option for mild nausea, ginger candies, real ginger beer, ginger tea, the risk is zero and the benefit is plausible for some passengers. Crystallized ginger or high ginger content products like Gin's Candy are preferred over ginger ale, which typically contains minimal actual ginger. The evidence for peppermint as a motion sickness remedy is weaker than for ginger, though peppermint is well established as a mild nausea reliever through separate mechanisms. Peppermint tea or high menthol gum may provide symptomatic relief for mild queasiness, but shouldn't be relied upon for anything beyond comfort in moderate conditions. This is one of the most consistently valid behavioral interventions, and the reason is physiological. Fixing your gaze on the stationary horizon gives your visual system a stable reference point that partially reconciles the conflict between what your eyes see and what your vestibular system feels. It doesn't eliminate the conflict, but it reduces the severity. Getting fresh air simultaneously helps by eliminating enclosed space cues that worsen the visual vestibular mismatch. Seasickness is a sensory conflict problem. The most effective solutions address it at the source, either by reducing the motion your body is exposed to, cabin position, preventing the brain's reaction before it starts, scopolamine, meclizine, or supplementing with tools that modulate the symptoms, acupressure, ginger, horizon fixation. The hierarchy matters. Cabin location first. Medication second, chosen based on your specific susceptibility and sailing duration. Non-pharmaceutical options as additional layers, not substitutes. And one fact worth keeping in mind for anyone who discovers on their first cruise that they're more susceptible than they expected: habituation is real. Research published in military and naval medicine contexts shows that regular sea exposure produces measurable adaptation in the vestibular system over 3 to 6 months. Experienced sailors aren't immune because of different physiology. They've simply exposed their brains to the conflict long enough that it stopped registering as a threat. The ocean doesn't change, the brain does.